I think that it is one of the biggest hurdles is to go into a room full of other people without the answer. And so oftentimes what we do as leaders is we go in with the answer, and it's about getting everybody on board with your answer to a question. And the issue there is that you're assuming your answer is the right answer when that I don't think oftentimes is the case. And so you aren't leveraging the collective of the group, the collective wisdom, the collective knowledge of the group. And so I see that as one of the biggest mistakes we make as leaders, is that we go in with a preconceived idea of what the outcome should be.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we talk about growing your business, which you may be thinking that's what all of these podcasts are about, and you would be correct. But we're speaking with the author of the book, Grow. And we're with Mike McFall, and I talk about grow. And what we really get out of this book is probably not what you think. It's not going to be about marketing. It's not about sales, not about money even. It's about your people. One of the biggest problems that leaders have is they're so focused on their own ego, they're so focused on themselves that they fail to create the kind of company that can run without them. And so if you have a self-expanding company, my words, not Mike's, you will have a much more profitable, effective, and happier company, and you will live with less chaos and more calm, which is really the core of his book. So what I like most about this conversation, he talks about, really creating a place that's for your people, creating a place that they really want to work, and the trust behind that and the authenticity that is necessary for you to create that kind of workplace. And we talk about some of the things that get in the way, like your ideas winning versus everyone's ideas winning, or the best ideas winning. And some other concepts will help you create a company that continues to grow. My name is Gene Hammett. I am a leadership coach, executive coach, and we have a leadership development group where we turn managers into leaders, and we do cultural transformations. That sounds like a lot, but the bottom line is a lot of our clients are growing fast. They're in a bit of chaos, and we create the systems and the leadership at all levels in the company to really maintain that growth and get ahead of it, so that you really do create a place that you love to go to work to, that you are empowering people around you. They are collaborating. They are having those tough conversations. All of those things are happening. And if you're curious about the work we do, one of the best ways to engage with us is to listen in. And this is the way you do this. And you can actually participate. You don't have to listen, but you can just listen if you want to. But we get together with alumni from the show, the guest, my clients, and some people like you that want to sign up to have a conversation around a specific topic. Last month, we talked about positioning your company to sell. This month, we're talking about tough conversations, which is my next book with my author, Amanda Hammett, my wife. If you want to join us for that, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. You can sign up for free. You can join us for that conversation. It's recorded. It is an executive summary created, so you don't even have to show up, but we hope you're there. We hope you want to listen in and even ask us questions about tough conversations. Join us now. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. Do it now, and you can reserve your spot and make sure it's on your calendar. I think it's June 26th. So that being said, let's dive into this interview with Mike. Mike, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Wonderful, Gene. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to have a great conversation today. We're going to talk about your book, Grow, which is right in alignment with Growth Think Tank. Funny how that works. But tell us about yourself first, Mike.
We've been working for almost 30 years now and building a company, and we've been fortunate enough to in the last 5 years be transitioning our minute to minute out of the business, replacing ourselves with a professional team, and that transition is one of the compelling reasons why I decided to write this book, Grow, too. So that's where we are. We've been at it a long time, and we're just looking to continue to grow and keep the machine rolling forward.
Well, I think a lot of companies want to grow, and they start working down that path, and you've probably seen it as well as I have. They run into some trouble. So let's start at some of the troubles that you see clients have when they're trying to grow their business.
Yeah, there's being a leader in a growth company, you have to constantly be growing. You have to constantly be evolving. And what got you to a certain stage of business, oftentimes those things will get in the way as you try to continue to grow. And so the first chapter of my book is a deep dive into due diligence, and it's due diligence on you as the leader. And so what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the things that you think could be getting in your way? And then I really talk through the things that I believe are important for us to be focused on as we grow a company.
I'd love for you to highlight one of the blind spots that comes up most often in your work.
Well, I think one of the blind spots that I see regularly as leaders transition, let's say, out of the entrepreneurial bootstrapping phase into becoming a leader, is that they are not working and leveraging the people that are within their team and maximizing the team. And it's still all about themselves, right? It's still about them being the smartest person in the room. It's about, they have every answer. They have the experience of growing the company, of course. But as you begin to transition into a leader, it has to become more about the team and the dynamic there and facilitating that dynamic.
Now, Mike has been talking about growing yourself. Now, I will say that I am an executive coach. I've been doing this for over 12 years, and I have been through phases where I failed to grow. Now, I'm going to go back to some previous businesses because I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I hired a coach to help me grow. And that was the only way to really grow. I had to highlight my blind spots. I didn't know what was going on. And those questions unlock something for me. Now, it's the same thing I do for clients now. So if this is something you want to do and you know that you want to continue to grow and keep ahead of the growth of your company, because that's what you really have to do as a CEO and a leader, then you want to make sure you do this. Or maybe you're thinking, I don't need it for myself. I need it for some key employee, or I've got some managers that really need some help. Now, I know this sounds like a commercial, but I really just care about you having the organization that really you're excited about, really effective, really performs at a high level, and leadership is the key to that. So if you're curious about that, reach out to me, gene@genehammett.com. Now back to our conversation with Mike. When you are working with clients, or maybe this is even for the experience that you've gone, what are some of the hurdles that they have to go through in that journey of looking at themselves that they're not usually prepared to do?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. I think that it is one of the biggest hurdles is to go into a room full of other people without the answer. And so oftentimes what we do as leaders is we go in with the answer, and it's about getting everybody on board with your answer to a question. Mm-hmm. And the issue there is that you're assuming your answer is the right answer when that I don't think oftentimes is the case. And so you aren't leveraging the collective of the group, the collective wisdom, the collective knowledge of the group. And so I see that as one of the biggest mistakes we make as leaders, is that we go in with a preconceived idea of what the outcome should be.
I've given speeches. I'm sure you give speeches too, to support your business and get the message out there. One of the concepts inside there is let the best ideas win, not your ideas, the best ideas. So how do you get someone to break that habit of bringing their ideas in? Because I got some ways I do it, but I'm just wondering how you do it.
I think one of the fundamentals is speak last, if at all. And so, when you're in an environment, when you weigh in as the leader or the owner of the company, you sway people's thinking, right? You move people's thinking in your direction. So if you can just hold your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas to the end, that allows other things to come to the forefront.
That's exactly what I've seen. And the phrase I use is CEOs don't realize that when they say their idea, that it could be the slightest little whisper, but people take it like they stood up on the desk and got a megaphone out and said, this is what we're doing.
Yes. Yes.
Which isn't the case. Like if, a lot of the clients that I work with, and I'm sure you come into this too, is they will say, I'm tired of pulling my employees. I want them to push me, but they continue to pull. And if you continue to pull them and don't empower them the right way, you will be pushing and you become the bottleneck. And I think one of the biggest aspects of growth is you've got to get out of being a bottleneck to growth in the business. When you're talking with clients, how do you get them to really understand that?
Well, I talk about fear, and one of the anecdotes to being innovative and having good ideas come to the forefront is fear, and that we need to inoculate fear inside of our organizations. And one way we do that is by becoming a cheerleader of the out of the box idea and thanking whoever brought that idea publicly, even if it's a crazy idea and it's never going to work, but just building an environment where people are willing to take risk and willing to throw out the crazy idea. To me, that becomes the primary role of the leader in a group.
I remember having a CEO on the show sitting in the same kind of seat you're in, and he was taking over from someone else who couldn't get the job done. This happens every once in a while. I think PE money came in, and big organization, I will tell you that. And he took over, and he noticed that there wasn't much trust and collaboration amongst the people. And somehow he got to the story of, this is how I knew things were changing. And I'm like, I'm curious, what is it? He goes, I started getting text messages on Sunday with new ideas. What are you seeing when you start to see things change in the right direction as it relates to employees and growth?
Well, I think when I see it working is when I see people on the team debating, discussing as if I'm not there. Right. That to me, that becomes the healthy environment when they are bringing their ideas, they're defending their ideas. People are critiquing or bringing nuances into the idea. To me, that's when you really start to see. If someone's still texting me their idea, I'm doing something wrong, right? I want to see them texting each other. I want to see that to me becomes a healthy environment is when it's as if you're not even in the room and they're running with it. That to me is a beautiful sight.
I love that point behind it, because that does take you out of being the bottleneck. So we've been talking about the first step of this, which is you've got to continue to grow. What else is important inside your book, Grow, that you want to highlight for us today?
Well, I think, one of the things that I write about in this first chapter is you have to be emotionally stable as a leader as well. And so people shouldn't be spending time figuring out the puzzle of you as the leader. And that happens. What mic am I going to get today? Am I going to, and so when you present yourself in a very stable way, people can relax and understand how the interaction is going to go with you. And then that again mitigates fear. Right. So emotional stability to me is a bellwether to leadership. The other thing I write about is optimism. Like if you aren't fueling optimism inside of the organization, nobody else will. And so I do find often that entrepreneurs they can have a very critical eye on the organization. And I think that's important at certain stages, but there is a point when you've got to leave the really hypercritical eye behind and become, again, a cheerleader of other people and their ideas within the organization.
Now, I'm curious about the leadership principles, like the big ideas that drive your concept. And I'm going to mention this because I love the subtitle of your book, Take Your Business from Chaos to Calm. What are the big principles in terms of leadership that make that happen?
Well, the premise of the book is, so it's book 2 in a 3-book series, and book 1 is about startup. Book 2, this book Grow, is from bootstrapping entrepreneurial phase to what I call irrelevance. And as the entrepreneur, if you can reach the point of irrelevance in your organization, that's a very, very calm state, and that's what I'm striving for. And again, the principles that are critical are we've been talking about them, right? Like you have to build this team. And my definition of irrelevance is that you could get, run over by a bus tomorrow and the organization will continue to thrive. And so that's this supporting the team, having the team run the organization, and it's a hard, lonely place. I mean, for 20 years, my cell phone was on fire, for 20 years, right? And so I was in everything, I was on everything, I was, involved in every, strategic conversation. I was, partnering with vendors, I was out there leading the business, right? But now today, I'll go entire days without a phone call, right? Without a text. And that to me is what we should all be striving for as leaders. In you can't I mean, I'm 20 years I did this, like, can I do it for another 20? Like, it's tough, And so there's a lot to this transition for many, many reasons, right? Succession and so on. But that to me is the stuff we've been talking about is those are the things I would really have people focus on.
I got to call this out because I know there's probably people listening in right now going, well, what if they don't need me? Like, I won't be adding value to the organization. And I get it, but I've also seen the other side is when you aren't needed, you're able to focus on maybe this big project that you've never done, or a big client, or big innovation, or something that you never had time for because you were in the day to day. How do you get people to let go of that feeling of they won't need me anymore?
Well, I mean, that's very much an ego thing, right? And so, if you're not needed day to day, are you still important? And my partner and I, the background is we each own 50% of the company. And so we spent years, and Gene, this is no exaggeration, we spent years talking about what would be the thing we could work on that would bring our company the most value if we aren't running the day to day. And so he is living a life of building farm direct relationships around the world. So he is building relationships with farmers. We're beginning to buy our beans. I say beginning, we're 50% of our volume is through relationships where we buy directly from the farmer. And then my work was this book series. If we're a franchise company. So if I can put together these books that clearly communicate our philosophy around how to build a business, how to lead a business, that there's a ton of value there for franchise owners and prospective franchise owners coming into our system. So we believe the work we're doing is really super important for the long-term health of the organization, but that didn't happen overnight. I mean, when I say we probably spent 2.5 years talking about this, what would it look like? Because that progression is slow. You don't hand over the keys one day to somebody that you just hired to be president of your company and walk out. That's irresponsible. So this progression we're in year 6 of that progression. So, and we're not done. And so, that needed thing is yes, what is the big project you could be working on that would add significant value to the company, even if you're not in weekly management meetings or you're not in the thick of it.
Now, we've been talking about the feeling of not being needed. I want to actually give you just a perspective that will just help you. It's a good thing if you're not needed, because when you're not needed, your team is empowered. They are doing things. Hopefully they're innovating without you, pressing on them and pushing on them. And that's a much better place for everybody. But when you are free, when you have the capacity to look, pick your head up and look at the future, you're able to look at innovations. You're able to look at some of the things that people just don't take time for. But I'll also remind you that when you do this, this is where your real legacy is. It's not just in doing the work, it's in creating something that's meaningful to you and to your clients. My hope is that you will continue to evolve, you'll continue to grow, and you'll continue to not be needed so that you can do this work. Back to Mike. I want to give you a chance to highlight something we haven't talked about already from the book Grow. What is it that you feel like is really necessary for this conversation to make it complete?
Well, I'm a firm believer in a concept called deliberately developmental organization. And when we talk about culture being the recipe for success in business, the culture of your organization, I love the culture that when people show up to work, we are, as an organization, we are supporting them in their own personal development. And it isn't about making them a better employee so they can be more functional in their job, so that they can, make the company more money. This is truly about supporting them in their own passions, their own personal development. And, what you end up with is people who are, become superheroes inside of your organization when you do that. And so it in the long run, it does benefit the company, dramatically by focusing in on the development of your people and being we're very, very passionate about building a loving, a nurturing, a supportive environment for our people to show up into work every day. If I could advocate the concept of DDO, there's a book called Everyone Matters, Raj Sisodia and I think maybe Bob Chapman. But anyway, it is. I read it and it was like fireworks were going off my brain. It was so beautiful.
Mike's been talking about personal growth, and it just reminded me of one of the things I've shared when I'm on stages before. It's talking about the need to create shared goals. The simple way of describing this is we have company goals, we have team goals, and we have personal goals. In the process of creating shared goals, it's finding the common link but behind what the person wants, what they really, really want to do. If they want to, I remember when I wanted to learn to sail. And so I took a job where I was really engaged. I was willing to work extra hours and weekends and come in early, all of those things, not because someone asked me to, it's because I wanted to, because I was growing. And so shared goals is the concept of when you have an alignment between what the person wants, what the team wants, and what the company wants all together, and everything is firing together. That is what shared goals is. Back to Mike. Mike, we've been talking about your book, Grow, and we gave you a chance to talk about the other things. And, one of the things that, my clients struggle with is how much chaos is acceptable. Obviously, we'd love for it to all be calm, but in the journey of rebuilding things and taking things back down, it gets harder. What are you doing to encourage people when it gets hard, when they're trying to build the kind of organizations you've been talking about?
Well, a lot of what I advocate is, and I'll admit, is theoretical in many ways, and the day-to-day life is very, very different. But I think we need to be striving for this concept of calm, and that to me is the end goal, right? Is to have an organization where people show up, they're highly effective, they're highly productive, they feel great about their work, they feel great about their team, and it's generally speaking a calm environment. Now, there are days that doesn't work, and you have chaos, and so, but I think if we don't set that as one of the things we're focused on is a very calm, nurturing environment, and we accept chaos, I think that's a problem, right? And I do think there are leaders out there that thrive on that chaotic energy, right? And you gotta look at the cost of that on your people, right? Like, what is the cost of that culture, of that energy inside of your world? And so, I am the end goal to me is calm. People, my people probably listen to this and think, yeah, your life's calm, mine's not, but that we're striving in that direction.
Mike, we're wrapping up today. And I don't think I've even mentioned this to you. We're publishing a book coming out in the next few weeks. Just wondering what your thoughts are as it relates to your work around this topic of how to have tough conversations. So when you're growing the business and you're leading through this chaos to calm, there's got to be some tough conversations, I would believe, with employees, with partners and clients. What is your take on that?
Well, we build relationships through trust, and the relationships that we build have to be built on an authentic position. And so when we are engaging each other, we have to engage each other in a way where we can accept critical feedback, and it's looked at as you're supporting me in my growth by bringing me this feedback. But you have, if you can't have trust until you have authenticity, you can't have a relationship until you have trust and authenticity. And so really focusing in on being authentic and being genuine, and the importance of that to me is where we need to go as leaders. And until we do that, the hard conversations, they can't happen, right? And so I've got a whole 10-minute section of a speech I give that's just purely about the importance of relationships. And then everything that comes from that is so powerful, one of which is incredibly authentic conversations.
Mike, thanks for being here and sharing your wisdom.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity.
Another great interview here on the podcast. I really appreciate him highlighting the importance of authenticity and trust inside of business. We really do want to create a place where people love to come to work, where people feel engaged, where people are growing. And that, my friends, is exactly what will keep your business growing, keep you sane, and keep you out of chaos as you continue to grow. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Grow Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.